Hello and welcome to another episode of Love is Your Medicine podcast. I am Mitch Wright. I hope that you are doing well on this Monday. Here in the Pacific Northwest, it is cold, rainy. Honestly, it's not too bad. Last week we had a snowstorm, so to have rain in December is rather welcome. I'm not going to complain. Happy to be added another day on this earth. I hope that you're doing well. Have you had a chance to listen to my previous podcast? I have two before this one. So if you haven't, why not give it a listen? The first one is just an introduction to Mitch, telling you a little bit who I am, about my childhood, where I started up to this point in my life. The second episode, I kind of touched on things that kind of molded me and affected my thinking. And because of that, it affected my relationships with people, how I treated people. So in a nutshell, those are what the first two episodes are about. For this one, I was thinking all weekend, what can I talk about next? Because like I said, I want to get personal, because I know a lot of people are affected by different things in their lives. So I was thinking, what can I speak on next? And I was like, well, I might as well just dive right into it, because the second episode I touched on it, about how I had this, and I still work on it, this attitude of I'm going to get you before you get me. And so that was the attitude I really, really struggled with since I was a child. And that affected my relationships with people, whether it was family, relatives, classmates, later on in life, workmates. I would get to a certain point with a person where I would open up to them a little bit, but I always expected the worst. I always felt like people were really up to no good. And, even though they might be friendly, my immediate response was, what are they up to? What do they want? And is this a healthy way to live? No. But because of things that happened to me in my early childhood, sadly, that's just the way I was. And that's how I dealt with things. And so then we get into what happened at an early age in my childhood that I would even think that way. It had to be something major, right? Well, you are correct if you are thinking that. And it happened, I would say, when I was, I've pushed that so far back in my head, but it would have had to be around 9 or 10, I believe. And when I was around 9 or 10, a female relative of mine did very inappropriate things with me. Horrifying for a young person, because all of a sudden you feel like this pain, confusion, guilt, Even though I didn't initiate anything wrong or start anything wrong, I felt like that. Why? Because, as I said in episode 1, I was raised a certain way in a certain religion as a Christian. And so even at a young age, I knew things, I knew right from wrong as much as I could at that age. So I knew what she was doing to me wasn't right. So I had this guilt, this shame, and then that would turn into anger. Because here it was supposed to be someone that I loved and thought I trusted. But yet she's doing this to me. And so it hurt a lot. Of course, I didn't, she made her threats to a young person is horrifying. What she would do if I ever told. This is our secret. And the thing about it is like this relative of mine, we were around the same age, or close to the same age. So as I got older and I was able to think about it, this had to have been a learned behavior from her. We're two innocent kids, knowing the world. Some of the things she did and said to me was something that she just thought of out of the blue. It had to be a learned behavior that someone taught her. And so, being mature and older, that's the way I could reason and think about that. So it happened, I'd say about, like 3 times. But for my mom, she really, like when I was hanging around a person, she could tell something was wrong one day. And she just kept asking me questions. And, we had a discussion about it. I never really told her everything in detail, but she knew enough to know that something, terrible had occurred. So my parents dealt with it, with my relatives' parents. And, I'm not going to lie, it was awkward for a while between everyone. And thank goodness things didn't go all the way between she and I, but enough did, to where it really, really bothered me and messed me up. So, from a young age, that's just my thought process. It's like, you can't trust no one. Even though I knew there were people, close enough to me to know that I could trust them. My parents, that my best interest was always forefront in their mind. So I knew that, but as far as other people, I just felt like, 1, I couldn't trust them. 2, if they were being nice, they had some ulterior motive, that they wanted something, they needed something. And because of that, I just got this attitude, like I said, I'm going to hurt you before you can hurt me. I'm going to do something to cause you pain. And I'm not talking like physically, but just mentally or emotionally. I was going to get you first. Like I acknowledged in the first 2 episodes, that wasn't the correct way to live life. That's no way for anyone to live. So I kept this all bottled up, just suppressed it, moved on. When we were older, I even confronted her about it. We were at a party with a lot of relatives and a lot of their friends. And I'm older now. We're over 21, drinking. And it was just she and I approached her. Asked her, did she remember? how much it hurt me. The pain it caused. That I wasn't angry anymore, but I just wanted her to acknowledge it. Let's move on. But, she was probably embarrassed. She said she didn't remember it, didn't know what I was talking about. I just said, okay. In my head, I'm like, okay, whatever. And that was it. Never talked to her about it again. Again, I bottle it up, keep it suppressed. Now, in the meantime, of all this bottling it up, I'm hurting people left and right in my life, whether it's friends or whether it's, a relationship, someone I'm interested in for a relationship. I get to a certain point, and if I feel they're getting too close or something is off, then I do a Houdini and I disappear. And I hurt them. Now, some, I didn't want to do this. Like, I didn't want to hurt anyone. Others, I intentionally did. I wanted to hurt them in some way, especially if they had done something to me. And I remember, the first girl I ever, I was 19, and we liked each other and, had a crush on each other. And I could feel like after a while something was getting different about it. And so she just, I kind of just dropped it, stopped talking to her. Another woman I know, I was I think 22. The same thing, we started talking. She was very nice. I felt like, and this came out of the blue, by the way, I felt like in some way, she was going to hurt me at some point. So I just stopped talking to her. If I saw her, I would speak to her. I'm cordial, but I wouldn't call anymore. We didn't hang out anymore. And, she was hurt, upset, confused. I felt bad because, like I said, she was a nice person. But this is just how I was. I would let people in a little bit, get to a certain point, and stop. No way to live, no way to treat people. And I had to deal with that a long time, in my adulthood. Sadly, another way that it affected me, it was that in my marriages, it would spill over. And I would have those same type feelings sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes are you out to get me in some way? Are you out to hurt me in some way? It made me incredibly jealous. Always wondering what the person is doing. Are they planning on hurting me? It's just a vicious cycle that would go on in my head. And it would cause me to act out and do things, that I'm not proud of to this day. But I knew I really, really needed help. I knew something was wrong with me. A lot of times have you ever done this? You just you want to blow it off and you say, well, this is just who I am. This is who I am. Nothing I can do about it. I just have to deal with it. Excuse me. And that's, to me is like a cop-out. When you don't want to confront an issue or a problem that you have, and you just take the easy, lazy way out. This is just how I am. You have to take it or leave it, deal with it or not deal with it. There's no changing in me. And so sometimes I would take that attitude, but it wasn't until my wife, we'd reached a certain point, and we've always known how much we love one another. And I never really opened up this part about me. But I knew that I wanted to be different. I knew I was tired of hurting people, especially those I love, that was close to me. And I knew I didn't want to live in pain like this anymore. And so after something happened in our marriage, we were talking and we're trying to heal. And so my wife asked me, like, have you ever thought about going to talk to someone? You know, maybe it's something that you're not remembering or you're not wanting to open up fully about. Maybe it's affecting you, the way you think, the way you act, the reason you're doing the things you do. You know, she said, I love you. I know you're a good person. I want to help you. And it, you know, that idea, I didn't like it at first because, you know, it's opening up to someone that I don't really know. It's talking to someone, laying it all out on the line. So yeah, that thought, it scared me. So I looked we both looked, you know, for therapists that I could go see. And I told her I would. Just up to a point where, as long as they weren't trying to tell me anything to do or, you know, quote unquote, treat me that didn't go against what I believed, you know, my faith or anything. And so I found someone and made an appointment with her. We talked. And the first couple of sessions, it was just to get to know me. She wanted to know things about me, my childhood. And, you know, she helped me, after listening to me a couple of times, to really see, okay, maybe it was something that happened in your childhood, something you're suppressing, because she couldn't really put her finger on why I was doing some of the things I was doing. It was like no rhyme or reason to the actions I was taking. And so I kind of touched on it with her a little bit. And we had a few more sessions where she was just really trying to help me to see that it could be I was bottling up all these anxieties and thoughts and memories, and this is how I was reacting. The actions I was taking that was hurting people, hurting my wife, eventually, you know, hurting myself ultimately, because it's not helping me mentally or emotionally, the things I was doing. And so it was really helpful to finally get it out. I had told my wife, I was telling my wife more than I was telling the therapist, because that was my comfort zone. That's why I felt comfortable with my wife, because I know truly deep down that she never wants to hurt me. She would never tell anyone anything that I'm confiding in her or use it against me. So, you know, 100% comfortable with my wife. She knows things about me that no one else does. So I was like telling the therapist up to a certain point. But she did help me to like realize what was wrong. And I think that was the beginning of the healing process that I needed to start. And, you know, I never really thought about that. I was suppressing a lot, you know. And so that was the beginning. That was the start. And, you know, I'm forever thankful to my wife, Michelle, for just having me think, because we came from kind of like two different backgrounds, my wife and myself. She's had to deal with, you know, way more than I have. And so having her perspective and seeing that I could talk to her and openly confide into her what was troubling me, and seeing that she wasn't shaming me for it, she wasn't blaming me for it, she wasn't making light of the situation or teasing me, because a lot of men sometimes, just talking to ones in the past, men may feel embarrassed about opening up to someone about this happening to them in the past, especially, if someone of the opposite sex. They may feel some type of way. And so I never felt anything negative from my wife. Nothing but support all the time, even up to this day. And so that was really the kickstart of me accepting what had happened and acknowledging it, not keeping it buried down deep within me. And then starting that mental process of, okay, what do I need to do different? What can I change about me day by day? Because remember, I'm a firm believer in, don't try to overpromise yourself that you're going to make all these changes, because as soon as you hit a bad spot or you've had a bad day, you may feel bad and depressed, not worthy, that you're not good enough. So take it day by day when you're trying to make these changes within yourself. So I just thought, what can I do day by day? What actions can I do to reverse what I've done? Is there anyone that I can reach out to where it would be valuable to reach out to apologize? A relationship, whether it was a friend, or a family member. So these are the things I did. And so I'm still working alone, and a few years have passed. And so we started looking at this documentary series that came on about a famous R&B singer, R. Kelly, and it was talking about parts of his life, just from an early age. And, a lot of it is tough to hear. He went through a lot, growing up with abuse. And so my thing with that, because I'm not going to get all into his ordeal, but personally, I'm a firm believer in, if anything has happened to you in the past, and, my heart goes out to you because I truly understand, but there has to be a point in you that you have to reach and say, it stops with me. I went through a lot of pain. I went through a lot of grief. I don't want to put that pain on anyone else. I don't want anyone else to know how this feels, what this feels like. So that being in me, and also the strong faith that I have, that I grew up in, I never once crossed my mind to do anything that horrific to anyone else. So that's my thoughts on that. So we're watching this documentary series about him, and they get to this one episode, because we had watched a few already. Like I said, it's just horrific, crazy things, these accusations and things that were being brought up that he's done to people. And so we get to the next episode one day, and they will always have these intros. And so they're going through this intro, and it's his brother saying what happened to him at a very young age by relatives. And his brother was saying the effect that it had on him, on R. Kelly, the things it caused him to do and say, and how he acted out, and what he became. And oh my goodness, like this big flood of emotions hit me, and I just broke down crying because it sounded like they were talking about me. And my wife, she quickly, came to my side and was consoling me. And I just told her that hit home like in a hard way. It kind of showed me how I was treating people. And to see that manifested like through someone else, and the pain that he was causing because of what he went through, it was just a bunch of emotions came out at once. And so even with that, my wife and I, we had a lot of discussions. And I told her I was committed more than ever to keep on working at bettering myself, because I was just tired of hurting people around me. Because this life that we have, you count it a blessing to have people close enough to you in your life that you can call family and true friends. I know a lot of people who are lonely, who don't have that, or don't have that many people in their lives. And so for me to be fortunate enough to have a family that truly loves me, and a wife and children that truly loves me, that's something big in my life, something that I truly and deeply value and always will. And I had just reached the point where I was tired of hurting people. I was tired of losing people. And after I broke down that time, a few years ago, like I said, I'm just determined more than ever to day by day make Mitch a better man than he was the day before. And that's what it's all about. So if you are living with something that you've been hurting with, and it could have happened to you in your childhood, it could have happened to you a few years ago, it could have happened to you recently, take it from me. I know it's hard. I know it may be embarrassing. I know you may be hurting. I know you may be confused. But talk to someone, whether it's a therapist or someone that you truly love. They truly love you and care about you, have your best interests at heart. Like, don't keep it bottled up. Take it from me firsthand. That does nothing but create pain. And the longer it goes that you keep it bottled up, the more that it's just in the back of your mind, put away, and you're not going to think about it. And the more years that pass, I forgot about it big time. That's how far back I had pushed it. Because like I said, I was 9 or 10 when it happened. I didn't acknowledge it to the therapist until I was in my 40s. That's when I began to deal with it. And about 3 years ago is when I had that major breakdown looking at that television show, the documentary I was telling you about. So this has been a long time bottled up within me. And the effects of that were not good. And that's why I am telling you, and not in a way to tell you what to do or to bully you, not like that. But I'm telling you from experience, from my personal experience, from my personal pain and grief. Don't keep anything like that bottled up. Go to who you need to go to make things right. Because the longer you let it eat away at you, it's just going to be more painful. And then you might develop a mental callus, because when you get a callus, like on your hand or your foot, it may bother you at first, but the more layers that get on that callus, you might forget about it sooner or later. So don't let that happen to any pain that you've experienced. If it needs to be addressed, address it in the correct manner. If you need to get authorities involved, do that. If you need help and someone to talk to, find someone that you can talk to and confide in. You need to open up your feelings. Even doing this podcast is helping me a great deal. Even Michelle told me after the first episode, after she listened to it, she said, I really think and feel that you doing this podcast is going to help you even more, to help you open up and to get things off your chest, because you have a tendency to hold things in, which I do. And so I agreed with her. I think having this podcast will help me, and hopefully my hopes and wishes is that someone who listens to this and hears it can find some value in it, and if anything, make you think, to just get the ball rolling, to let you know you're not alone, and just to get you thinking, to help you find your beginning to healing. Because, we live in a crazy world. Everyone is going to get hurt in some type of way. That's just facts that we all have to accept. And if and when something does happen, how will we deal with it? How will we confront it? It takes real maturity to just face something, especially something negative, head on. So if you need to find your beginning, I urge you to just take your time and just start. Think about what you need to do to begin your healing. A great way that helps me too is I not only think about what I need to do, but I'll write it down. Or, if your electronic device, your cell phone or your tablet, it has a notepad, jot things down as they come to you throughout the day. Because if it's in writing, I found that I can go back to it, but then I'm not only thinking it, but I'm writing it. So it's just another layer in your mind to help you focus on what you need to do. So find your beginning to healing, whatever that may look like to you. If you have found your beginning for healing, I applaud you. Keep on moving forward. Hopefully you can find a confidant, someone you can trust in and confide in. If you need to, find a therapist, someone to talk to, listen to, and work things out. Because trust me, you need that. You cannot keep things bottled up. It hurts you, and it hurts those around you, especially those that you really, really love and care about. I always think the people around me deserve the best person that I can be. Because you don't want to be a taker and just take, but we also, in relationships and friendships, we have to be a giver. We have to give. So what are you bringing to the table when you have a relationship? when you have friendships. Hopefully what you're not bringing is a bunch of baggage. No one deserves that. So, think about, am I bringing something valuable to the table? How can I help people around me? But see, before we can do that, we have to help ourselves first. And remember, I'm not, I'm not talking about it in a selfish way. But how in the world can we help someone if we need help ourselves? If we are struggling with something, we have to, home has to be right first. We have to be whole ourselves before we can start giving of ourselves. So just think about these words. I know it's a deep subject. I kind of jumped right in, but hey, it's what life is, right? We just have to jump in and confront things, even if they make us uncomfortable. We have to confront things. It's just a way of life, especially if we want to grow as a person. And if you have young ones that are always watching you, trust me, if they see you confronting your problems and challenges head on and working through them, that will be a very positive influence on their lives. Seeing how, excuse me, seeing how you respond to adversity, that'll be huge in the eyes of your young one. So keep pushing forward. If you have something negative that has happened in your life, don't be ashamed. Don't be embarrassed. Be a fighter. Fight for yourself. Fight for your mental and emotional stability. Things are what you make of them. Even the negative things is, what do you do when you get knocked down? Do you stay down or do you get back up swinging? And so that's how I've always tried to look at things. I may get knocked down, but I'm going to get up swinging. And I hope that you feel the same way too. So find the beginning of your healing. That's what I challenge you to do. Acknowledge it and start pushing forward to see what you can do to make things right. Day by day. Don't ever try to bite out a big chunk of anything. Day by day. How can you be a better person than you were the day before? That's how we do it here at Love is Your Medicine podcast. I hope you enjoyed this third episode. As always, I like to hear from you. You can shoot me an email, Mitch@themitchwright.com is my email address. I would love to hear from you, or any feedback, comments that you may have. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you. Have a great week. Stay positive. Negative things may happen, but we just get right back up and keep on fighting. Because if you don't love and respect yourself, how can anyone else love and respect you too? So think about that. Have a great week. Go and do great things.